Welcome to my nightmare.
What's up, bulls and ghouls? Welcome back to Cinematic Nightmares. Today, we're diving into the mind of a writer who lives where dark imagination meets heart. Someone who's written everything from horror short stories to award winning children's fiction and screenplays. He's a member of the Horror Writers Association, a Seton Hill MFA graduate, a screenwriter, and the mind behind the Eerie Brothers and the Witches of Autumn, which just won Best Children's Book at the Imaginarium 2024 and was literally featured on the NASDAQ billboard in Times Square. Please welcome to Cinematic Nightmares, Sheldon Higdon.
Hello, hi. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm surviving.
Good. So, you've been writing for most of your life, but the first professional submission that you was accepted within hours is the kind
Yeah.
of story most writers. This is the kind of story that most writers dream about. What was going through your head when that happened?
Um, mm, um, Surprise. I was really I wasn't expecting it. Everything takes time, especially in the writing world. And so what I did was I submitted it because I was at a cafe or somewhere. It was like February, snowing and stuff outside, and I was just writing and having coffee, and then I saw they had a submission. So I literally wrote something then and there, um, sent it, not thinking I would hear back for several weeks or months, and then started writing something different. I was just writing really short stuff at that moment. And then I got an email saying they wanted to take it. I was like, oh, wow, okay. I was surprised, shocked, disbelief. Last thing I was expecting. Um, and then I wrote something much shorter because I like to write really short stuff too and challenge myself and see if I can write something with limited words. Um, and so I wrote something, I think it was 500 words, the next thing, and I sent that out, and then same day it got accepted. So
Really?
um,
Wow.
yeah, and so then I went, huh, hmm. So then, of course, it made my day, and then I went about my business and kept writing, other stuff, and then
Right.
I just kept writing and writing and writing, and then at that point, I was really writing for myself. I wasn't trying to send out a whole bunch of stuff, but um, it was in my favor, so I kept going, thankfully.
Right. So, I mean, you've published close to 50 pieces across stories, poems, and articles. When you look back at your earlier work, what's something you see that has changed the most about your voice or your process?
Um, the process has gotten more, I guess, more relaxed. I used to have to, I was constantly writing and writing and writing and writing, and I wanted to get more stuff out eventually. And now I really put a lot more thought into what I'm writing. Not that I
Mm.
didn't think about it then, but now I'm literally thinking of words and of sentences and paragraphs, and I'm rewriting and rewriting those. Um, Trying to make the best choices possible. So, um, especially with the beginnings, um, structure, things like that. So I put more thought into it.
Nice. So, you've got this mix of horror, suspense, and heart in your writing. What first drew you to like dark storytelling, though? Like darker storytelling?
Um, it's always it's always been there in me, um, from when I was a kid. Because I wrote a lot as a teenager, as a young kid, at 12, 13, and so I was always writing dark stuff. Because I grew up on that 80s horror, Twilight Zone, reissues of Tales from the Crypt comic books, um, and my mom giving me all her Stephen King stuff at an early age, Edgar Allan Poe, um, and then coming into this world when you're pronounced dead 3 times and having a hole in your heart and collapsed lungs and you weigh under 3 pounds, when you're sort of coming in the world like that, you're sort of born out of darkness, so it's always been there,
Yeah.
innate.
Kinda
So
something you were born into,
it's just,
basically.
yeah, I would something that I feel like is just, just was it's just born there. I don't. I mean, I never really considered that until much later, but then it started making sense to me.
Yeah.
Um, coming out of something like that, of course, your world's going to be a little bit more grayer than probably most people's.
Mhm.
So, if I had a rainbow, it would still, the colors would still probably run together and be kind of muted. It's just my sort of view on things.
Gotcha. So I gotta ask, when I was reading your bio, I saw that you worked under the man behind Night of the Living Dead. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that had to be a surreal process. So what did you take away from that experience that still influences you today?
He, from knowing him and working with him, and that he really taught me the process of fine tuning, being prepared, um, like just doing your research, doing your work. Um, he really, he's a smart guy, really smart. And he knows when he writes, he knows what he's going to write. He already has it figured out, has it written down. And when he's filming, he's the same way. He knows shot for shot for shot. So I learned, sort of picked that up from him. Being working as an assistant for him, I kind of had to keep pace with him, and so I carried that over into my own writing. Was I mean, I outline, but I also kind of leave room to not outline. If that makes sense.
Mhm. That does. So when it comes to writing your books, what are the books or the films that shaped your creative DNA? I know you mentioned Stephen King earlier, your mom giving you Stephen King books, but is there any other authors or films, horror films that may have shaped or in your creative DNA?
Um, man, there's so I mean, Halloween, the original Halloween is always one of my favorites. Um,
Love it.
that has been there since day one. I remember to this day seeing Nightmare on Elm Street in the movie theater, 1984 by myself. 13-year-old kid wasn't even allowed to see it, but I knew the owner of the theater where I grew up, so he let me in, and I got to see it all by myself in the movie theater.
Nice.
And so, that one. Of course, when Night of the Living Dead, when I first saw that, and Day of the Dead and Dawn of the Dead, those had a big influence as well. Um, I've mentioned before that, like, one of the first films I remember seeing on TV, a horror film, was called The Crawling Hand, from the 60s, if I remember correctly. Watching it with my mom when I'm like 5 or 6 or something on the couch, because she liked horror stuff, and so she passed all that on to me. So um, I was never not allowed to watch any kind of horror film. You know, she knew I could handle it, and so therefore she would just give me stacks of VHS tapes and go, "Here you go." Got these from the movie place. From the rental store. Um, so yeah, I mean, from that movie onward to The Thing by Carpenter, um, a lot of those just instilled themselves in me over time. There's probably too many to name, really.
Do you remember in your writing, do you remember the first story that actually scared you while you were writing it?
No. I'm somebody who can watch a horror film, read a horror novel, and I don't get scared. And from writing it doesn't scare me, but um, I've written scenes where I've cried. So it's the more of the emotional impact is what affects me more than being scared. Um, but I know if I'm writing something that's tense and I'm building up suspense, then yeah, I mean, yeah, you can feel your pulse race a little bit because even though you know it's coming, you know you're doing it in a good way because it's affecting you.
Right.
Um, but yeah, for me, it's more of an emotional thing. Like I've written Eerie Brothers. There's a scene where I remember writing it and I was crying. Um, so you get so attached to the story, to the characters that they affect you emotionally. But being scared, no.
Okay. Well, since you mentioned the Erie brothers, let's talk about the Erie brothers and the Witches of Autumn. First off, congratulations on the reprint deal with Crystal Lake Publishing and on expanding it into a
Thank you.
full series. How did that
Yeah.
partnership come together?
Um, yeah, well, the Eerie Brothers has always been a four-book series in my head, or what I call a cycle, because each one has the title of a season in it. So as the seasons are cyclical, they go their cycle, whatnot. So I always thought of it in that way than a series. But I I just talked to Joe, and um, I knew I wanted to find a home for it where I can do the whole series, and he was on board immediately. So that helped greatly.
Nice. Nice. So you mentioned there are 4 books. Can you tease a little bit of where the story's heading or what kind of challenges the Erie brothers are going to face next?
In book two, they leave the island and go to the mainland. Um, one in the original, they go back in time to 1692 Salem. Um, one of them goes to present day Salem, and the other one mistakenly goes to two other places and then ends up in a third place before he gets back to where his brother is. And there's a reason for that. Um, he's that would be Edgar, because he's learning more about himself and he's starting to learn a little bit more about the darker side of himself, um, and what he's able to do. Um, so the darker side of things tends to make decisions for him to some degree. So that's why he ends up in a few different places than his brother does. He doesn't exactly go where he needs to go. He goes where the darker side wants him to go. But yeah, I mean, it's starting. It will over the second book and the third book. A lot more. There's going to be a lot more characters, a few new family members, more abilities that they discover that they have. They don't just have one right now. They'll have more than one. Um, and then it will come down to the last book, and that will be just an all-out um, war, if you will. Um, to finalize the whole thing and wrap it up. So we'll see. Even some of it, I
Yeah.
don't know.
He's like, "I'm just figuring it out as I go. I will get there."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm actually
I
I'm
have bullet points, and I just let all the spaces between those bullet points sort of surprise me and fill themselves in. So
nice. Nice. So the moment that you saw your book in Times Square, what was that? What was that like? What was that feeling? Like seeing your cover in Times Square?
I just wish I could have been like in Times Square to see it in person, but other people were there to film. Um, yeah, it's definitely something you never expect. You don't. Um, it is an odd feeling to see something that's in the middle of such a famous place, and there's just people everywhere. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have hopefully all these eyes on it. I don't know, on the end game, I don't know what came out of it, but um, it definitely is a big career move, or moment for the book when it shows up something like that. It's really nice, really neat.
I can only imagine. I mean, I think it probably would have been more if you were actually there, like one of those moments that kind of just sticks with you. But it's the fact that other people saw it and
Yeah,
were able to get it to you to show you, like, hey, look, you're on Times Square. Like, this is a big
yeah.
deal, But not too many people can say that their book cover has been shown in Times Square. So
Yeah,
Congratulations on
no,
that.
it was yeah, thanks. It was, it's yeah, definitely a, high moment. You know,
So
you don't get a lot of high moments in life, you know, it's so up and down, and so, you know, when those times come, you definitely take advantage of it.
right, right. So writing horror for kids takes a little bit of finesse. Um, and how do you balance the elements and decide how far to push it?
Um, well, I mean, I kinda just I didn't really change. I knew wasn't gonna fill it with, you know, gore and blood and things like that. Obviously, it's a middle grade book. Um, but I didn't wanna change how I wrote it because I didn't want the kids to feel like they're being written down to. And so I wrote it as I didn't like go, okay, I'm going to change how I write or change my style or anything. I didn't change anything. The only thing that was different, I was writing about kids rather than adults. And I wasn't getting gory and things like that. And course, language. So I just wrote it as if I were going to write it to an adult. And so therefore, I didn't want them to feel like that, you know, they're being written down to. That was my most important goal, was to hopefully achieve that. Um, but you know, I kind of just writing it, I mean, I just kind of put myself into the characters a little bit. Because you know, when I was a kid, I rode my BMX bike all over town. Um, there's a lot of moments in the book that are actually just me. Um, so I just wrote, you know, I just wrote what came to me, what I saw, and who I was, and who I hope these kids were. Um, and I didn't need to go overboard with it, you know, because you are writing for 12-year-olds or 8-year-olds or 10-year-olds or whatever. So,
Right.
in language, you know, you don't have to change a lot. They're smart enough to, you know, they can read. You know, they half the time they read up anyways, so they're going to read a little bit above their age range anyways. So you don't have to dumb down words or anything.
Right. So, what do you hope that your young readers take away from the Erie Brothers series beyond the scares? Like, what do you hope that they take away?
Um, well, whenever I sign the book for people, especially kids, I always write that there's no greater spell than family. Um, and that's what it really is. It's about two boys discovering who they are, what they're capable of, and knowing that they have each other. And as long as they have each other and their family, then they can get through anything. Um, they are the spell that can defeat the evil. So, if anything, that's what it's really about. Um, you know, all the adventures and journeys and everything else is just part of it.
Yeah, that's a great message about family because family is everything. And without family, you can't conquer this world. And I love it. I'm here for it. So let's shift gears. Let's talk about Dark Roots, your adult psychological suspense novel that's dropping here in November.
Yeah, November 14th. So what? Maybe 3 weeks or so.
Mhm,
And this is kind of funny to some degree because this would be it's also about family,
mhm,
but it's about not knowing the people in your family you think you know. Um, you don't always know just because you know your dad or mom's are. You don't really know your mom and dad. You don't know their
right.
secrets. You don't know what they went through before you were born. You don't know who they were before you were born. So um, that's what it's really about. It's about discovering who your family is, but also discovering who you really are. Um, but this also deals with kids, but it's the opposite of the Eerie brothers. You know, there's a kidnapping in it. Um, there's missing children. Um, so, and there are scenes in there where it's implied that the children weren't treated great. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a swings to the other side here when it revolves around kids, but it comes down again. It comes down to family, really, is what it is, and not knowing. the people you really think you know.
So can you give us a little bit behind some of the characters in Dark Roots without
The
spoiling?
main character, yeah, this is gonna be tricky. All I can tell you is that Benjamin's the main character. Um, he's a journalism teacher in Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh, at my old alma mater, Mark University. Um, he doesn't really care for his job that much anymore. He wants to sort of get away from journalism, from teaching it, um, and he wants to sort of be a bit more creative because he's sort of fed up with doing a journalism piece where he has to ask people really tough questions about something that they don't really want to talk about. And he feels like he's impeding on people's lives that way now after all these years. And then his dad, 83-year-old father, who he doesn't really see often, commits suicide. Now, being 83 years old and committing suicide, that should tell the reader something's up. um, so he's left the old family farm. It's just him, he has no siblings. And then he has to go, it's like a 4-hour drive north of Pittsburgh up in the mountains. And he has to go up to a small town and take care of business. And then he starts discovering um, secrets within the farmhouse where he starts wondering things. Um, and he feels like there's like the house is haunted. He starts seeing things, he starts hearing things. He starts questioning his himself. Um, and then, yeah, his girlfriend, he's in an interracial relationship with a woman that he loves. They're having a hard time because they are in an interracial relationship.
Mhm.
Um, and her ex-husband is not, making things easier for her. Um, and so she gets, she comes up and helps him and stuff, and then eventually her kid is kidnapped.
Mm.
And then um, the story ramps up, and then by the end of it, Benjamin um, realizes he's not who he thought he was, and he has to try to figure out himself. I can't I can't really
Oh no,
say
no, yeah, I think honestly, I'm interested just from the little bit that you've given. Like, and I'm pretty sure my followers and viewers are also very interested just based off the little bit of information that you've already given. And I don't want you to spoil it because
yeah. But
be-
dark roots refers to family roots, family tree thing, that sort of that nature. And then I should be releasing the cover soon, which I've seen some of it, and it's pretty cool. I like it a lot. But it's not 100% done. But it should be coming out soon as a reveal. So
okay.
can't
All
wait for
right.
that.
So where would they be able to find Dark Roots once it's actually released on the 14th of November?
It'll probably be on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com and things of that nature. Whether it pops in stores or not, I'm not sure. I know the publishers had books show up in Barnes and Noble, so I'm not sure if this will be one of them. I guess time will tell, but I'm sure it will be on their website or Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. Books a Million, all that stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope everyone else is. So, more. I have a more on the other side between film and fiction. What medium feels more natural for you right now? Because I know you've done some short screenplays before as well too. So, which medium feels natural for you?
Um, Writing fiction, short stories, novels, things of that nature. It used to be a long time ago was screenplays because that's all I was writing for a good while there. Um, but now, because I don't write them as much as I used to, now fiction and short stories and stuff like that has sort of become the medium that it's far easier for me. When I write a screenplay now, I mean it's still easy for me to do, but it's just something that I'm just not constantly doing. So um, I can't say both because I do one far more than the other. But when I wrote the screenplay for the movie that was filmed last February, I mean I wrote that, and I mean it's not long. It's 13 pages long. It's a 13-minute short story or film. Um, but I wrote it in a couple hours, 3 hours or so. Sent it, the director liked it, and then I worked on it and then sent another version. I think I ended up with 8 different drafts, um, and then locked it down and then touched it up for a shooting script. So, maybe about 10 different times I think I've sent her a version of it. But, it was wasn't too difficult. I don't know. Maybe it's just because when I write, I sort of envision everything the same way, whether it's books or screenplays. It's all a film in my head. So maybe that's it.
So what I'm hearing is we're gonna get an Eerie Brothers screenplay. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Yeah, I would love to see it. I would love to see it like show up as a Netflix animated series or something.
Mm,
Um, that'd be kind of cool.
that would be great.
I've never thought of it as a live action. I mean, you could do it, but just animated has always jumped in my head. So
I could see it
maybe cool though.
animated.
Yeah.
Definitely an animated series. I could see it as and that's just based off the cover of the book alone, and that's the only way that I see it, and I envision that's the way that you see it as. I mean, you clearly said that. So yeah, I could definitely see it as an animated Netflix series or even an animated Hulu series, kind of like they had one that was like a short one a while ago, but I could definitely see that. So with the Erie Brothers expanding and Dark Roots coming soon, what's the next big goal for you? Because I've already given your goal, but I'm just saying, what is your next big goal?
Um. Well, yeah. To write the next 3 books. Um. I have a short story collection with a publisher. I have yet to hear back from them. I mean, I know they like it. Um. And the cool thing about that is at the end of it, um, I have it set up so it starts with the newest work and it goes all the way down to the oldest work because I wanted to show my progression throughout the years, basically, for anybody,
Mhm.
for a new writer, kind of help a new writer go, oh, here's how, he wrote this, it's pretty good. But then look at this, I can see him progressing and getting better and making better choices and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Um, that's really one reason why I put it together. But at the end of it, very end, I added 8, 9 poems from when I was like 12 or 13, 14. I mean, I really went back further than my one of my original first short story sales. Because I want to show, the real progression from really young to up to now. So I added that. Um, and those are pretty dark, being a teenager and being again 12 years old or so. So hopefully they'll get back to me soon, and that will be a go. But my next big goal is to I have to write a full length screenplay for a producer in California. Um, and I have a novel that I want to write about the Grim Reaper who is put into Witness Protection Agency. And then I want to send that to agents because my overall goal as a writer is to land an agent and have a partnership with an agent.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people who don't have them and they do really well, and that's great. But for me, I know if I can have a partnership with an agent, then they'll be able to get my stuff out in front of more eyes, if you will, more readers. So and that's my goal as a writer, to get in front of more people.
That's part of it. That's part of your legacy. So, speaking of your legacy, what kind of mark do you want to leave on horror night for both kids and adults?
I mean, I just want to put out good work, really. Um, and that's really not up to me. I mean, I can do my best, but it's really up to the readers. I mean, for them to decide. Um, but that would be my biggest thing is that people will enjoy what I wrote. Um, and hopefully they'll keep reading what I wrote and tell other people to read what I wrote. Sort of keep it going. But for me personally, it's just to try to better myself with every next story or every next book. You know, can I do better than the last one? Can I do better than the last one? And keep moving forward. And hopefully readers will eventually pick up on that and enjoy it.
Well, before we wrap up, I've got some quick rapid fire questions for you. They're just
Okay.
cute. They're just like they're always horror related. So, you know me. So, your favorite horror novel or author?
Oh my God. I'm not going to say what people would usually say. um, just because it's obvious. But like I enjoy Paul Tremblay a lot. Um, I think he's one of the he's at the top of the game right now. Him and Stephen Graham Jones, um, Rubinho Iglesias, um, all of them are really doing some great work. But yeah, Paul, as soon as he has something new out, I grab it, I read it because he just likes to layer it so much. And that's something I'm like, okay, I wonder if I can do that. And he likes to leave things for the reader to figure out, and ambiguity and kind of stuff like that. So um, I've been trying to figure that out too, and seeing if I can pull something off like that. So yeah, he's somebody that I read um, quite a bit of, along with the other people I mentioned. But um, yeah, of course, Poe has always been probably my favorite overall. Um, but I've also loved Richard Matheson, Ray Bradbury, Shirley Jackson. So there's yeah, you can go on forever, because they all have play a part in who you are as a writer, or even as a person for that matter, because you grew up with that. So they help shape you, like earlier.
Yeah. Your favorite horror movie that you can watch 100 times and never get tired of?
Um, that would be Halloween. like, I watch that even when it's just
Not
since
Halloween.
July 4th. Yeah, Um, if it happens to be on, I'll watch it. Jaws is probably the same way. If that comes on, I can just watch it from wherever it's at. But Michael Myers is probably my favorite slasher out of all of them. Um, I think because I'm, not- you know, I've never. I think because he's evil. But I think he's really trauma portrayed as evil. Um, and you go back to him being a kid and the reason
Yes.
why he kills, and all that stuff. There's trauma there. And so I think to me that's what he really is, wrapped up in a mask and jumpsuit. So I
I can
tend to like
totally
him.
see that.
Yeah. You know, I mean, of course, you got Jason. It's always fun because he just gets to kill people, go to Manhattan and kill people and stuff, go to space and kill people, go to hell and, so that's fun. I remember seeing um, Friday the 13th part 3 in 3D at the movie theater when I was a kid. Um, and when I bought my first, DVD of any Friday the 13th movie, it was that one. And it came with glasses and stuff. So because I remember seeing it as a kid, so therefore that was the first Friday the 13th that I bought on DVD.
Nice, nice. Coffee or chaos? Which one fuels your writing sessions?
Coffee. I just had some not too long ago, actually. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you could put a little cream and sugar and chaos in your coffee.
Why
So,
not?
yeah, I'll say so. Chaotic coffee would be the best answer, I guess.
Chaotic coffee. I think I'm gonna go ahead and brand that and,
Yeah,
and make
you
some
might want
coffee.
to. Yeah.
So one horror movie trope you love and one you'd bury forever.
Oh my God. Man. Um, One I love. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I do love one, but I probably never thought about it enough to realize that I love one. Um, but one thing I was just thinking this the other day, and that's why I'm sort of going to what I don't like. Um, I was watching a trailer for a movie, and they show the person laying on the floor, and if they're laying on the floor facing the camera, what's going to happen? Well, they're going to be pulled backwards, and you see that almost in every movie now. You know, and it's just lost its effect. It doesn't. It's going to happen. They're on
Right.
the floor or on the ground. There's woods behind them, and then they get sucked backwards, and it's like so. That's like one thing that I'm like, oh my God, like you can rest that one now. You can
Right.
pull it back
Right.
into the woods and leave it there. But yeah, I don't know about one I love. Never really thought of that. That's a good question because I'm sure there are ones that I love, and I just love them so much that they don't jump out at me because I like them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the ones that you don't like jump out at you. It
Right.
used to be
Right.
the girl running in the woods, breaking her foot or whatever, her shoe, and then stumble. That was like the one back in the day. Um, Now you have um, being dragged backwards, um, people contorting their bodies and walking upside down and spider walking and stuff. So,
The
um,
slow turn into the entity, like, like, yeah,
yeah,
I wish they
yeah,
would get rid of
it's
that too.
yeah, so they went from the cat jumping out of the closet to this stuff today. So,
Right,
you know,
right.
yeah,
Alright, well, you can always get back to me on that one. So if
yeah.
you can spend one night in any horror town and not Haddonsfield, because we already know that Halloween is your favorite. So where are you going and do you make it out alive?
Mm, I think I'm a pretty good hide and seeker. Because when I was a kid, we used to play a lot at night and play in graveyards and stuff. And I used to sort of turn myself into the stalker and stalk the guy who was stalking us.
Mhm.
Because I figure if you're watching him, then he'll never find you because you're too busy tailing him. Um, so I think if I was in, you know, Crystal Lake, I think I could do a pretty good job of keeping my self alive for a while. If I just sort of turn the tables on Jason and sort of maybe follow him around a little bit, watch what he's doing,
Until he
because then he
teleports.
can't find me. Yeah, until he does that, and then I guess I'm out of the picture. But
Right.
yeah, because if you're going to Manhattan, come on, you're in Manhattan, you can't get away from somebody. But that's just me. But or well, space, you're kind of locked in somewhere, so it's kind of
I
harder.
was gonna
But
say space is different. You're
yeah,
on a ship.
yeah, it's a little bit different. Yeah, you have nowhere to go. We already learned that with aliens. So, um,
This is true.
but yeah, I think I could last probably longer than maybe some of the other people if I was at Camp Crystal Lake. So maybe, who knows? I might trip and fall.
On some leaves.
Yeah, he and then he'll just meander on his way over to me and kill me. So, and I'll just lay there and wait for it, I guess. But um, yeah, I mean, Haddonfield, there's a lot of places that run and hide there. So yeah, I try not to think about it too much because then you start going, how come this and how come they didn't do that and how come don't go in the
Yeah.
basement, but yet you did. That kind of
Right.
kind of thing where you're yelling at them. And there's there's another trope. That's actually just reminded me. How many movies do you watch, a horror film, where nobody ever wants to turn on a light? Okay, I'm gonna go downstairs. Oh, look, there's a switch next to the door on my way. But instead, I'm just gonna take this shaky flashlight. I'm gonna use that. Ignore the pull string that's hanging there.
Right.
I'm just gonna, it's like I'm like, oh my God, just turn on the lights. You have power.
Right.
Use it. But no. So that's something that I've gotten sort of irritated over too. So
Right.
it's like, you know, yeah, use your light switches. They're there for a reason.
Turn the lights on.
Yeah.
Well, Sheldon, this has been a great conversation. I've truly enjoyed having you on. Why don't you tell everyone where they can follow you and keep up with your new releases?
I always just tell people to go to my website, sheldonhigdon.com, because then I always have my social media links there, or email if people want to contact me, or and I have any other news there. Um, I try to have it there posted first so people can go there and check it out.
Nice. Nice. Well, boys and ghouls, make sure you check out the Eerie Brothers and the Witches of Autumn, and keep an eye out for Dark Roots that's hitting November the 14th, 2025. And make sure you also like, share, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so you don't ever miss another single nightmare. And as I always say, until next time, boys and ghouls.